Okay, first of all, I also attended the POW memorial in the park, the Veterans Garden on the 19th. I want to commend our local VFW post for putting this together. It was a very moving event, and I appreciated the invitation to be there. I'm also a member of the Diversity Task Force for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus for Chicagoland area. And I attended a meeting in Addison on the 22nd, and the purpose of that meeting was to discuss actually what they have done is they've done some community events where they have actually brought people together who have strong feelings on both sides of the issue of illegal immigration and Hispanics in general. And the truth is that what they're doing is they're doing something that I think may be beneficial to our own community, which I may at some point recommend that we participate in. We're going to have another meeting coming up soon that will emphasize how communities can better respond to one another, can get along with each other better, and I think that is something that we all should be striving to do. We all live here in this community, regardless of what our ethnic background may be, and the point is that because we do live here, we should try the best we can to coexist with one another, to not only coexist, but to actually thrive in this community together. I think that's very important. And I think when we have people who try to do nothing but divide our community, that's very negative, and that's not a can-do attitude, that's not a can-do spirit. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. So hopefully at some point maybe Carpentersville can be a test case for this type of forum where we can bring people together and actually discuss what we have in common. You know, not what separates us, but what we have in common. I think that's very important to remember that, because there's a lot more that we share than what divides us. So I think we should remember that at all times. I also was invited to Perry Elementary School on the 25th to participate in their community days. This is something I've been doing for the last 3 years. It's something I enjoy doing. I get into the third grade classrooms and I talk with the third graders. And it's very enlightening to hear their questions. They're terrific kids. It's a diverse group at Perry. You see African American children there, you see whites, you see Hispanics, and what they all share is a common bond between themselves, because you see no problems with them sitting side by side in that classroom. I think there is really the test, and what the future really, that gives me hope for the future of our village. Seeing those young people sitting there side by side, interacting with one another, being very respectful to each other, that's what we all should keep in mind. And as far as the situation with the silo, when the painting was done of the silo, yes, that was a village-owned, well, actually, we leased the property, I understand. I think that's how it worked. It was a lease agreement that we leased the property from the Forest Reserve, and because of the fact that this was a volunteer situation from the standpoint that it was an organization outside of the realm of Carpentersville. Carpentersville was not sponsoring this. This was something that was sponsored by the Save the Silo organization, and this was put together by the Redmers and other people in our community. This was not a group that was sponsored by the village of Carpentersville. Dave Reese, who doesn't even live in Carpentersville, was the one who got the contract to actually repaint the silo to its original status, and he lives in Algonquin, so he's not even a Carpentersville resident. So the fact that you bring this up as some kind of an example of, the waiver I think it's totally unrelated. It doesn't fit. So the situation is that we were talking about was a situation that this committee that these volunteers work for actually is connected to the village of Carpentersville. We, as a board, have approved this. It is a arm of the village of Carpentersville. It's a committee that's sponsored and sanctioned by the village of Carpentersville, and therefore we would be held responsible if anybody would get hurt or injured or anything else would happen to them on while doing this work. So this is something that's relevant. The fact that trustees are working on this project is also something that I didn't bring up before, but I'll bring up now because we have something that's called the Open Meetings Act of Illinois. The Open Meetings Act prohibits a majority of trustees to get together and talk about any kind of village business. Now, I'm not suggesting that the trustees are talking about village business, but when you have a group of people who are working together for a number of hours during the day that are all connected to a village board, there is the potential for a violation of the Open Meetings Act. If people get together at Trustee Sigwalt's house in the morning as a kickoff place for these projects to take place, there's the potential for a violation of the Open Meetings Act. These are concerns that I have expressed in emails to all of these individuals, and when they sit here and they act like they don't know what I'm talking about, or they think that, I'm trying to stop a project. I'm not trying to stop a project. I'm trying to make sure that the village, first of all, is legally able to defend itself, because that's the responsibility of all of us to do that. If any of these other property owners come to us and say, well, how come we had to pay and this person over here didn't have to pay, and this has been publicized too, in the newspapers. This has been something that's been publicized that this is going on. And if there is any potential for lawsuit against the village because of that, because we're now charging certain people and we're not charging other people, I think that's something we need to be concerned about. These are all matters of concern to me. And I'm not trying to do anything to stop progress, obviously, in this town, because I've been pushing very hard for that. And by the way, that house at 104 Williams Road, I have been talking about this for the past several months with different people in this village, different staff members, not understanding how that structure can sit there. It reminds me of the same situation we had over at Hazard and Route 25 before the last election, where we had the Mexican guy on the horse with the sombrero and the Mexican flag, and nobody could figure out how to get that mural off the wall. Well, I made a statement at one meeting that if that was not down by the end of the week, that I and a friend of mine would go over there and personally paint over it. Well, you know what? Less than 48 hours after I made that statement publicly, the sign magically disappeared. The mural was gone. So it sounds to me like there's politics being played in some of this stuff, and that's unfortunate. Because what we all should care about is not the petty politics that's going on in this town, but what the final result is that this town is trying to strive to obtain. And, we are far short of where we should be in this village. And it's because of the petty politics that has been played here for many, many years, long before I was ever elected village president. I just walked into this quagmire. This wasn't something that is brand new. This has been going on for years in this town. So anybody that thinks that this is new, it's not. We have the same bad politics that runs this village, that's caused these problems, that needs to be rooted out. And that concludes my report.